Welcome back to the Quantum Chain Podcast, where we kind of unpack these mysteries of blockchain and crypto.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to dive deep into the world of Bitcoin. We've got some help from Wikipedia, CoinGeek, Investopedia, Kraken, and Coinbase. We've got a lot to cover.
Yeah, a lot of great sources there.
Yeah, so let's get right to it.
It's really amazing to think that Bitcoin started with just a simple white paper back in 2008. It was titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system.
What?
And it really did spark a revolution.
Okay, so Bitcoin, it wants to be money, right?
Yeah.
But without any central authority. That's kind of a radical idea, isn't it?
Absolutely. It really challenges that traditional financial system where governments and banks have always controlled the flow of money. You know what's fascinating is that Bitcoin actually emerged from this cypherpunk movement.
What?
The cypherpunk movement, these were folks who advocated for privacy and digital freedom using cryptography. So this desire for a decentralized system, it was like baked into Bitcoin from the very beginning.
And of course, there's that whole mystery surrounding its creator, right?
Oh, yeah.
Satoshi Nakamoto?
Satoshi.
Nobody knows who they are. Is it one person? Is it a group?
Right.
It's like a real-life digital Da Vinci Code.
It really is. And that anonymity is like a core part of Bitcoin's appeal. It reinforces the idea that it's not controlled by any single entity. Instead, it relies on this distributed network of computers to maintain the system.
So it's kind of like a digital democracy where everyone has a voice?
In a way, yeah. Each computer on the network acts as a node, and they all work together to validate transactions and keep the system running.
So that brings us to the technology behind Bitcoin, the blockchain.
Yeah.
CoinGeek describes it as a triadic term: fixed protocols, a digital coin, and a decentralized blockchain. To be honest, that sounds a little complicated. Can you break it down for us?
Sure. Think of the fixed protocols as kind of like the ground rules. They ensure that everyone's playing by the same rules and that the system is operating fairly.
Okay.
The digital coin is what we call Bitcoin, or BTC. It's that unit of value that we use to transact. And then the blockchain is the public ledger. It's like a giant digital spreadsheet that records every single Bitcoin transaction.
So Wikipedia actually mentions that Bitcoin is divisible up to 8 decimal places.
Wow.
The smallest unit is called a Satoshi. So even though one Bitcoin can be worth a lot of money, you don't need to buy a whole coin to get started.
Exactly. You can buy fractions of a Bitcoin, which makes it more accessible to a wider range of people.
So how does new Bitcoin actually get created? That's where mining comes in, right?
You got it. Kraken describes it as a digital gold rush. Miners use specialized computers to solve these really complex math problems, and this process verifies transactions and adds new blocks to the blockchain. It's a competitive process, and the miners who solve the problems first get rewarded with newly minted Bitcoin and those transaction fees.
So essentially, miners are incentivized to keep the network secure and running smoothly.
Exactly.
But Investopedia points out that mining, it uses a lot of energy. Some people are worried about the environmental impact of all that computing power.
Yeah, that's a valid concern, and there's a lot of debate around it. Some proponents argue that Bitcoin mining can actually incentivize the development of renewable energy sources, but it's definitely something to consider, especially as Bitcoin adoption grows.
CoinGeek emphasizes that each Bitcoin transaction is digitally signed and authenticated using cryptography, and this prevents double spending.
Right.
Meaning you can't spend the same Bitcoin twice.
Exactly, and that cryptographic security is one of Bitcoin's greatest strengths. It makes it incredibly difficult to counterfeit or manipulate.
But what happens if you lose your Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Like that story on Wikipedia about the guy who accidentally threw away his hard drive with 7,500 Bitcoins on it.
Oh, man. That is a cautionary tale about the importance of security. He lost access to his Bitcoin because he lost his private key. That's a secret code that gives you control over your Bitcoin. And if you lose your private key, your Bitcoin is gone forever. There's no central authority to recover it for you.
So it's like losing the key to a treasure chest.
Exactly. Kraken recommends using a hardware wallet to store your private keys offline. It's like having a physical safe for your digital assets.
Okay, so we've covered the history, the tech, even some of the risks. But what can you actually do with Bitcoin? I mean, is it just for buying things online?
Well, it's definitely evolving beyond its initial purpose as just a digital currency. Coinbase mentions that some companies, even big names like Microsoft and Expedia, accept Bitcoin as payment.
Wow, that's pretty mainstream.
It is. And some people actually see Bitcoin as a store of value, like digital gold. They believe it can hedge against inflation and economic uncertainty.
Speaking of value, remember that story from Coinbase about the guy who bought two pizzas with 10,000 Bitcoins back
What
in
do you mean?
2013?
Oh, yeah.
Today, those pizzas would be worth a fortune.
Yeah, it's a reminder of how much Bitcoin's value has skyrocketed. Of course, past performance is not indicative of future results, but it does show how much interest there is in Bitcoin.
Well, that's a lot to process. We've covered the basics of Bitcoin, but there's still so much more to explore.
Yeah, we've only just scratched the surface. Bitcoin is this complex, evolving technology with a lot of potential, but also some challenges.
For now, we'll let you digest all this information. But don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll delve deeper into Bitcoin's impact and its potential future.
So far, we've been talking a lot about Bitcoin's past and present, but let's kind of shift gears a little bit and look towards the future. Like, where's this technology headed? What kind of impact could it have on the world?
Well, it's pretty clear that Bitcoin it's evolving beyond its initial purpose as just a digital currency, right?
Hmm.
CoinGeek even calls it a peer-to-peer electronic cash system.
Yeah.
It's like it's meant to be this whole new way of thinking about money and value.
Yeah, exactly. It's about giving individuals more control over their finances,
Mhm.
enabling those transactions without relying on those traditional intermediaries like banks.
Uh,
This could be especially transformative, like for people in countries with unstable currencies or limited access to those financial services.
yeah, and Investopedia also talks about Bitcoin as a store of value, like a digital version of gold.
Mm-hmm.
With all the economic uncertainty in the world right now, I can see why that would be pretty appealing to people.
Right, it's a hedge against inflation. Because the supply of Bitcoin is capped at 21 million coins, it's inherently deflationary, meaning its value could potentially increase over time as that demand grows. This makes it attractive to investors looking for those alternative assets that can potentially outperform those traditional markets.
But Bitcoin's price has been notoriously volatile. Like, remember the 2018 crash?
Oh, yeah.
Is it really a safe haven if it swings so wildly?
That's a fair point. While Bitcoin has shown remarkable resilience recovering from numerous crashes, it's important to remember that it's still a relatively new and untested asset class. There are risks involved. It's not for everyone.
Yeah. Coinbase mentions that more and more businesses are accepting Bitcoin as payment. It feels like it's slowly becoming more mainstream.
Absolutely. We're even seeing the emergence of Bitcoin futures ETFs, which allow investors to gain exposure to Bitcoin without directly owning that underlying asset. This is a sign of growing institutional interest and could lead to further adoption in the years to come.
Okay, so with all this growth and innovation, what are some of the challenges that Bitcoin faces as it continues to evolve?
Well, one key challenge is scalability. The Bitcoin network can only process a limited number of transactions per second. This can lead to delays and higher fees during periods of high demand. Developers are actively working on solutions like the Lightning Network, which aims to improve transaction speed and efficiency.
So how does the Lightning Network work exactly?
Imagine a network built on top of that Bitcoin blockchain that allows for faster and cheaper transactions. Instead of recording every single transaction on that main blockchain, the Lightning Network allows users to create payment channels between each other.
So it's like having a side conversation where you can quickly exchange small amounts of Bitcoin without clogging up the main network.
Precisely. Once you're done transacting, you settle that final balance on the main blockchain. This reduces the load on the network, enabling faster and more cost-effective micropayments.
That sounds incredibly useful, especially for things like microtransactions and the Internet of Things, where those small, frequent payments are so common.
You got it. And there are other interesting developments happening as well. Remember how we talked about the blockchain being like this giant tamper-proof spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Well, there's this concept called ordinals that allows users to inscribe data directly onto individual Satoshis, the smallest units of Bitcoin.
Wait, so you're saying you can basically attach digital artifacts like images or text to these tiny fractions of Bitcoin? It sounds like NFTs, but but on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Exactly. While the concept of NFTs isn't new, ordinals bring this functionality to Bitcoin, a blockchain that wasn't initially designed for this purpose. It's sparking a lot of debate and creativity within that Bitcoin community.
Yeah, that opens up all sorts of possibilities for new forms of digital ownership and asset creation on the Bitcoin blockchain. It's fascinating to see how Bitcoin, which started as this simple peer-to-peer electronic cash system, is evolving into something much more versatile.
Indeed. And these innovations are just the tip of the iceberg. As more developers and entrepreneurs enter that crypto space, we can expect even more groundbreaking advancements in the years to come.
It's an exciting time to be following this technology, but as with any emerging field, there are also challenges and concerns. What are some of the potential downsides or risks associated with these new developments?
Well, with any new technology, there's always that risk of unforeseen vulnerabilities or unintended consequences. The Lightning Network, while promising, is still relatively new and requires further development and testing to ensure its security and reliability.
And what about ordinals? Are there any concerns regarding their impact on the Bitcoin blockchain?
Well, some argue that ordinals could potentially bloat that blockchain, leading to higher transaction fees and slower processing times. Others worry about the potential for spam or abuse, as anyone can inscribe data onto that blockchain, regardless of its content or value.
So it's a bit of a double-edged sword.
Mm.
On the one hand, these innovations bring these exciting new possibilities, but on the other hand, they also introduce new challenges and require careful consideration to mitigate those potential risks.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that the crypto space is still in its early stages of development. As with any new technology, there will be bumps along the road. But the key is to approach these challenges with a balanced perspective, embracing innovation while also being mindful of those potential risks.
Looking ahead, what are some key trends or areas that our listeners should be paying attention to?
Well, one major trend to watch is the growing institutional adoption of Bitcoin. As we've seen with the introduction of Bitcoin futures ETFs, major financial institutions are becoming increasingly comfortable with the idea of investing in cryptocurrencies. This could lead to a significant influx of capital into that market and further legitimize Bitcoin as an asset class.
That makes sense. And what about the regulatory landscape? It seems like governments around the world are still trying to figure out how to approach cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, regulation is a constantly evolving area, and it's important to stay informed about any changes that could impact your investments or business activities. While some countries are taking a more restrictive approach, others are embracing cryptocurrencies and creating favorable regulatory frameworks to foster innovation.
So it's certainly a complex landscape to navigate,
Yeah.
but with all the innovation happening in that crypto space, it's hard not to be excited about the future. What are your thoughts on where Bitcoin might be headed in the next 5 to 10 years?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? While it's impossible to predict the future with any certainty, I believe Bitcoin has the potential to play a significant role in the evolution of finance. As technology continues to advance and adoption grows, we could see Bitcoin become an increasingly mainstream asset, integrated into everyday payment systems and used for a wide range of applications beyond simple transactions.
That's a pretty compelling vision. But as you mentioned earlier, scalability remains this key challenge.
Right.
Do you think Bitcoin can overcome this hurdle and truly become a global currency?
That's a topic that has sparked countless debates within that Bitcoin community. Some believe that solutions like the Lightning Network will be sufficient to address those scalability concerns. Others argue that Bitcoin will primarily serve as a store of value, similar to digital gold, while other cryptocurrencies will emerge to handle the demands of those everyday transactions.
So there's no clear consensus on what the future holds for Bitcoin. But one thing is for sure, it's going to be an exciting journey to watch.
Absolutely. And, as with any emerging technology, the key is to stay informed, be adaptable, and approach that future with a sense of curiosity and open-mindedness.
Great advice.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground today. Let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've learned. Welcome back to the Quantum Chain Podcast.
Yeah.
We're wrapping up our deep dive into Bitcoin, and I have to say this has been kind of a wild ride.
It really has.
Yeah.
We've explored so much about this revolutionary technology,
Yeah.
from its cypherpunk roots and the intricacies of blockchain to the potential impact it could have on the future of finance.
Yeah. It's incredible how Bitcoin has grown from an obscure white paper to like a global phenomenon in just over a decade.
It's a testament to the power of innovation and the desire for a more decentralized and transparent financial system. Bitcoin, it challenges that status quo and forces us to rethink those long-held assumptions about money, value, and control.
It really feels like we're witnessing like a paradigm shift, like a move away from these centralized institutions towards a more distributed and democratized system.
hmm And it's not just about the technology itself. Bitcoin represents this philosophical shift, a belief in individual empowerment and financial sovereignty.
Thinking back to that story about the guy who bought 2 pizzas with 10,000 bitcoins.
Oh, yeah.
It's mind-boggling to see how much its value has exploded since then.
Right. It highlights that incredible growth and potential of this market, but it also serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of understanding those risks involved. Bitcoin's volatility can create immense wealth, but it can also lead to significant losses.
Yeah. And we also talked about some of the challenges that Bitcoin faces,
Right.
like scalability and regulation.
Right.
It feels like the whole world is trying to figure out what to make of this technology
Uh-huh.
and how to best harness its potential.
Yeah, it's a complex and rapidly evolving landscape. As Bitcoin matures, we can expect to see these ongoing debates about its role in society, its environmental impact, and the best ways to ensure its security and stability.
But despite all these challenges, there's this sense of excitement and possibility surrounding Bitcoin. Like it feels like we're on the cusp of something truly transformative.
Yeah, it's an incredible time to be involved in this space. Those innovations we're seeing, like the Lightning Network and ordinals, they demonstrate that creativity and ingenuity of the Bitcoin community.
So as we conclude this deep dive, what are some key takeaways for our listeners? What should they be thinking about as they navigate this world of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
Well, first and foremost, it's crucial to approach this space with a balanced perspective. Bitcoin offers incredible potential, but it also comes with risks. Do your own research, understand that technology, and be aware of the volatility before investing.
Absolutely. And remember that education is key.
Yeah.
The more you learn about Bitcoin, the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions and participate in this exciting, evolving ecosystem.
The future of finance is being written right now, and Bitcoin is at the forefront of this revolution. Stay curious, stay engaged, and be prepared for a wild ride.
That's a great note to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Bitcoin. We hope you found it insightful, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little bit mind-blowing.
It's been a pleasure exploring this fascinating topic with you.
This is the Quantum Chain Podcast, signing off.
Run through the fire, you are in control.